Welcome here into Teal The Show. Frank Frangie back from Las Vegas. Frank, the Jaguars, another one of those kind of Sundays. This was a tough one, Frank. It was against a rough Raiders team. It didn't go the Jaguars' way. And I just feel like this is a tough one to swallow since the Raiders were a team that was so high. Only 2 wins up until yesterday. They were on a 10-game losing streak, Frank. A 10-game losing streak, and somehow the Jaguars still lost that game.
You know what I found out, and you're right about that. It was a tough loss. But here's the story of the season, Jamal. And you go back and write the story of the season, if it finishes with the last 2 games the way it has been, is every game's close, good team, bad team. That game felt exactly like the game against the Eagles, who may be the best team in the league, certainly one of the best teams in the league. You're coming down at the end, you got a chance to win the game, and you don't. Fast forward to the Raiders many weeks later, you're coming down, you got a chance to win the game, and you don't. One of the best teams in the league, maybe the best, certainly among the best, and one of the worst teams in the league, maybe the worst, and the game's the same. I think that's what's so bizarre about this Jaguar season. That's the 9th time now they've lost a game by 1 possession. I think that's an NFL record. It's the 8th time it's been 5 points or less, and the 9th time the deciding play, or that was either made or not made, was about the last minute, 20 seconds of the game. So, and again, that's not an excuse. That's the way the NFL is. The Kansas City Chiefs play a lot of close games too. They just win them all, right? So, but it felt like a lot of them feel, no matter who the opponent is, the game seemed to end the same way.
Mistakes just keep hurting the Jaguars week after week. Doug Peterson knows they have to find a way to clean it up. He spoke with the media a little bit earlier today and says that, look, these problems keep showing up week after week, and one way or another, they have to figure out a way to fix them.
I think what happens sometimes is players, having been there before and being on teams that, sometimes, and I haven't been on many teams or coached many teams that go through this, but I think sometimes you look to do more than what we ask you to do, right? You do take things in your own hands from time to time. And I'm not saying guys are going off the reservation or anything like that, but sometimes, it adds to, right? It adds to our situation. We just ask them to do their job. If they try to cover for somebody, or they try to anticipate a play that's coming at them and it's not there, and so they're out of position. I just think sometimes they're trying to make plays, right? And trying to spark your team.
Frank, look, there have been some mistakes that continue to pop up. It's late in the season, whether it's different things. So it's been dropped passes. We've seen blown coverages, missed assignments. Things like that continue to kind of show up. At some point, they got to figure out a way to clean this up.
One thing that I think happens, Jamal, you and I have had this talk. You were a college football player, so you've been around sports all your life. I've been around sports all my life. Most of us, we've been around it a lot, right? Teams that make the plays at the end of the game or don't make the mistakes become accustomed to that. Teams that don't, the teams that kind of mess it up a little bit with one bad mistake here or there, or become accustomed to that. I play a lot of golf, right? The guy that looks over that 4-foot putt and expects to make it generally makes it, because he's become accustomed to making it, therefore he knows what to do to make it. The guy that misses that 4-foot putt every time becomes accustomed to missing it, and then he does the same things he does over and over to miss the putt. The Jags got into that rut where close games, they didn't make one more play. The opponent made one more play. They made one more mistake, and man, they have not been able to shake their way out of that. I know coaches are frustrated that the same things keep happening over and over and over, and it's hard to pull yourself out of that. It really is. It's an abyss, man. And they haven't been able to do it. I know they're all frustrated because of it.
I think you're onto something there, Frank. Confidence goes a long way. One of the plays I kind of want to, I need you to talk me off the ledge on this one, Frank. That last Jaguars offensive play, the 4th down play, it ends up in the hands of D'Ernest Johnson. And that wasn't where the play was designed to go by any means. But in that situation, you got Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby both hanging out on the sideline. That was D'Ernest Johnson's first touch of the game, just his 2nd target. Not an ideal situation in my mind to even put D'Ernest in. I'm not sure how you have Travis and Tank both on the sideline there. That one boggles my head.
Yeah, I hear you. And you want your better players in such an important moment, but that's not what that came down to. And I don't want to beat up on Mac. He did the best he could. But on 4th down, you can't check it down. I don't care if it's Emmitt Smith you're checking it down to. On 4th down, you can't check it down it's 15 yards or 10 yards shy of the first down marker and hope your running back breaks 3 tackles. Mac's played enough football that he's got to have the presence of mind that on 4th down, you throw it down the field. Somehow, some way, you throw it down the field, whether you're hoping to get a pass interference, whether you're hoping someone like Brian Thomas Jr. makes a miraculous catch. So the choice there, yeah, you could have had Travis Etienne in the game or Tank Bigsby in the game, but the check down was still not going to work. He would have to break 3 or 4 tackles, and that doesn't happen in the NFL, not today's NFL. So that play to me, number one, you got in a bad situation where you shouldn't have been in that 4th down. But once you get in that 4th down situation, Jamal, you can't check the ball down. You've got to know you can't check the ball down. Mac made that mistake a week ago when he stepped out of bounds rather than just throw the ball out of the back of the end zone. That's a presence of mind thing. It was his 47th start, only his 5th start here, though. But Mac would tell you, he's played enough football that you got to throw that ball down the field. Even if it's desperation, you can't check it down to, no matter who the running back is, you can't check it down to a running back 10 yards shy of the marker.
All right, Frank, we've talked a lot about this team's not having any quit in it. And the Jaguars did fight till the end of this game, even if it didn't end their way. But there's definitely some frustration in the locker room because of the expectations they had going in and because of the results that they've seen from the season. Now, injuries dictated a guy like Andrew Wingard getting a chance to play a little bit more on Sunday against the Raiders. Dewey said in the locker room that he's out there on the field trying to get guys going and doing everything he can do.
I mean, I know for the guys that haven't been around, it's hard. And I've been through this stuff many times. And you just got to go play ball and know that your tape is your resume and everyone's watching the tape. And that's what you got to do. And it stinks. And I do everything in my power to scream at guys and cuss and say, let's effing go. But it is what it is.
Look, you can kind of get a sense from Dewey there, just the energy and the passion that he plays with. And that he wants to be out there on the field. I mean, an injury sidelined him early on, Frank, after he was having a fantastic training camp, and he never really got that opportunity until Sunday to really get a chance to play meaningful snaps this year.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I kind of agree with him a little bit. Look, he was going to be a starter. I can tell you he was going to be a starting safety before the injury back in August. That was the plan. I was told that by coaches. Trust me, he was going to be a starter. But then he was hurt. He was out for so long. When he came back, they weren't sure he was ready. He felt he was. They felt they weren't sure he was. In retrospect, probably should have been playing a lot. He made a lot of plays yesterday. He certainly overcame and made some pass breakups that you wonder now in retrospect, because the safety play has struggled, Jamal. Would they have been better off with Dewey playing all along? And maybe they would have. I'll bet you if you ask coaches if they could rewind the tape about a month, that when Dewey came back, they'd have put him out there. Again, they weren't trying to slight him. They didn't think he was healthy yet. They didn't think he was ready, and I get that. I understand it. But I think if you had to do over again, you'd play Dewey more than you did, because I thought he played very well yesterday. I kind of agree with him on that.
Well, we'll see what happens in the next 2 games. All right, coming up, we'll get Frank to talk about some more positive notes about the Jaguars season, at least one guy that continues to shine the light. We'll talk about Brian Thomas Jr. next when Teal The Show comes back. All right, welcome back here into Teal The Show. Frank, the one bright spot that we talk about every week here on Teal The Show seems to be Brian Thomas Jr. This week, it's because he's Mr. 1K, Mr. 1,000. Finally got over that 1,000-yard mark. Fantastic rookie year. I mean, going into the season, Frank, I think we talked about expectations for the guy, and if we would have been talking about 1,000 yards, we would have been like, maybe that's a bit much. But he's there and still 2 games to go, so he's going to push that number up a little bit farther.
He's going to be one of the great receivers we've ever had here. I think it's safe to say now, other than Jimmy Smith, who should be in the Hall of Fame, this guy is tracking to be the second best receiver in the history of this franchise. I really believe that. I tell you this every week. I feel like I'm a broken record, Jamal. I thought he would be good. He was a first-round draft pick. I know people at LSU who thought he was really good. I had no idea this good. I had no idea he would come into the league where the best football players in the world exist and outplay them. If you'd have told me this rookie from LSU would outplay and dominate the best defensive players in the world, I'd have told you lost your mind, but that's what he's done. He's been magnificent. He's got the right mindset. He's a grounded guy. I can't wait to watch him play the next game and the next game, and when it's over the next year. Number 7 has been a real star here, and it's been fun watching him play. Even though everyone knows he's getting the ball, he keeps getting the ball. The touchdown yesterday was the thing of beauty. It was a little bit of a busted coverage, but the reason he made it hurt is once you bust a coverage on him, Jamal, he's by you so fast that there's no recovering, and that was a beautiful play.
You know, one of my favorite things about Brian Thomas Jr. is that we keep talking to him about these individual things, which are fantastic because he is one of the bright spots on this team. But he always says it just doesn't mean as much because the Jaguars came away with that loss. So he wants to win the game, even if the Jaguars aren't getting those wins right now. And the individual statistics are great. And he's looking forward to them and trying to reach those milestones because he wants to be great. But overall, he wants to help the Jaguars win. Frank, he has 2 more opportunities to try and help the Jaguars win games this year. The next one against the Titans. Now, the Jaguars did beat the Titans a couple of weeks ago, but on Friday, we'll talk a little bit more about how this is a little bit of a different Titans team with Mason Rudolph leading the show.
Yeah, and back to Brian about how he's hurting when they don't win the game. Jamal, football's hard, man. It's hard. You work hard. You practice hard. You risk your health every time you go on that field, and you want some gratification. And gratification comes in wins. Yeah, they make a bunch of money, and they're celebrities, and everybody knows. But winning's why you're out there. And if you keep doing it and the wins don't come, it's frustrating, man. I feel for those guys. I know they're trying. I feel for all of them. I feel for Doug. I feel for the players. Those guys are battling and trying and sweating and grinding. And here's another loss, and here's another loss. And they've played 15 games and they've lost 12 of them. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. So that's what he's talking about. He's saying, there's pain in this. I see the pain in the guy sitting in the locker next to me. I see the pain in the guy on the bus and on the plane next to me. So that's what he's talking about. So, yeah, 2 more chances to get one of those wins and feel the way you want to feel after a ball game.
Well, we'll see what happens in those next 2 outings, Frank. We'll talk more about that Titans game coming up a little bit later on this week. That's the last home game of the year, so it should be a fun one over at the bank. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here on Teal The Show. Frank, thanks for being here. Thank you at home for tuning in. Good night, everybody, and go Jags.